Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Kaiju number 8, season 1, episode 11. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, we open with the top brass of the Defense Force, including Kikuro's dad, Isao, is how I'm going to pronounce it. So they're having different conversations about how to handle the Kaiju number 8 situation. So it's like, brought up a point that I kind of brought up last episode. You definitely can't make that public knowledge because the Defense Force is supposed to be the major line of defense against Kaiju. And you're telling me Dai Kaiju, like number 8, ended up finding its way into your ranks. It's like, that is embarrassing, and that's a whole issue. They've also kept quiet about number 9 to some extent, I think, or maybe even obviously this most recent situation with 10. I mean, there were news reports, but I don't know like how much of that was like fully permeating. Well, I think probably like aspects about number 9 weren't made public about like how it can transform into a human. I think that's specifically the stuff they were talking about keeping hush hush. But then there was also a conversation. Apparently, there's a unit or group or whatever that has been experimenting with transplanting Kaiju tissue into humans. I don't think they're trying to aim for the full hybrid situation, but I think it's more like, yes, the next step to give humans the edge against Kaiju is like, obviously suits can only take you so far technologically, so if we can like add more advancements on the human front too on top of the tech, then that's great. Obviously, they want to just, the one person is like, well, we could just kill number 8 and obviously make weapons out of him. But another one's like, why don't we utilize him as a weapon? But it's like, at the end of the day, Isawa was like, no, we had the 3rd Division bring Kaiju number 8 to us, and then we'll decide after running some tests. So we cut back to Kafka, who's beating himself up. He's like, I know what I did, but he's like, I'm sure I'm disappointing everyone. I'm sure Ishikawa is mad at me. I'm sure Mina's mad at me. Hasina is mad at me. And he tried to talk to them, but they're like, no, you have to be quiet. And so they're transporting him. All the unit is outside in formation, and no one's looking at him. He can't even bring himself to look at, especially Ichikawa, because he's like, I'm embarrassed. I failed you. But Ichikawa steps on a line and is like, I'll see you in a couple days. I know you'll be back soon enough. And I think that was important for him to know, like, right, they support him. Even Mina's like, hey, while we're in this transport vehicles, there's no cameras, but I'm going to let you know that the entire 3rd Division has your back. We know, like, you are a human. You know, she's like, yes, I was shocked initially when I found out you're a kaiju, but the fact is you ran in without hesitation, also knowing what you'd be exposing to us, but you did it to protect us. And it's like, that made me realize it's the Kafka I've always known. And that tearful moment where he's asking her, like, he breaks down afterwards, but he's asking, can I still be by your side, even by this? Can I still stand by your side? And she's like, yeah, I'll always be waiting. And it isn't just, like I said, it's not just our characters, but even like the characters we come to know and other people in the unit. It's also even Hoshina, who's like, all right, salute. And one of the top brass people's like, what are you doing? It's like, we're saluting our captain who's leaving. He's like, oh, of course. We couldn't possibly be saluting some kaiju. And Hasina was like, yeah, of course, sir. You know, even though it was for Kafka. I even love that one of the other people meets with Hasina later, and he's like, yeah, that bastard, who does he think he is? Kafka, like, holding back against me, meaning when we fought, he didn't go all out. He's like, next time we fight, it's going to be a real fight, you know, his pride. But also, it's just his way of being like, nah, I've got to believe that he'll come back, and I'm going to really give it to Kafka the moment he comes back. But that means, being able to do that means he's made it back. But obviously, a lot of the people in the unit are disheartened about the situation, you know, and you even have Iharu trying to make a joke, be like, oh yeah, the old man's got, spare tire, trump card and stuff like that. But even Minase's like, yeah, he saved my life. Like, he's not a bad person. And as I do think they'll tell the public, is like, no, because that would just send the world into a panic. So, because now it would turn into a situation, if they find out that humans can become kaijus, people will turn against each other. As they said, like, yeah, people will be so scared, like, oh, what's going to happen? What if the next person beside me ends up turning into a kaiju? That could lead to a lot of people getting paranoid, and their own people, like, getting a little trigger happy and killing a regular person because they just thought they were a kaiju or suspected them of being one. So, you'd kind of basically turn the general public would become its own enemy. So you have to be careful of that. There's not much they can do because the decision is outside of their hands. We had Mina gather up. It was Haruichi, Aoi, Ichikawa, and Iharu because they're being split up. I don't know. I'd assume that would also include Kikoro, but maybe because she's such a special case, they're just going to leave her where she is. But basically, to boost up the others, they're going to have to go to separate divisions now and train. And initially, Haruichi's looking at it like, or is it really just the higher ups wanting to split us up? Anyone that's um, close to Kafka and is being split off so we could easily be monitored. But she's like, no, this has nothing to do with Kafka. It was already something that was planned, and the others are having the reservations, but the one who steps out is Ichikawa, understandably, because he carries the biggest weight and blames himself because he's like, if we were stronger, like maybe Kafka wouldn't need to be in this situation. So for him, it's like, I need to get stronger while Kafka's away. I can need to focus on getting stronger and believing he'll be back. But I need to get stronger so that Kafka never has to worry about transforming again. That's one of his main goals, So it also once again gives him something to focus on. And we even have Aoi initially reaching out to his former commanding officer in the unit he was in before being transferred to the 3rd Division. Working his way through as a trainee and then making his way to the 3rd Division as an officer, that he's trying to find anyone that can put him in contact with someone higher up that allowed them to kind of position and talk about releasing Kafka. Even Haruichi was like going through his phone and he was trying to call his dad, which is like interesting, but even he kind of hesitated on kind of pulling the trigger on that for whatever reason. Like I said, I don't know how many of the other members in the 3rd Division are splitting off because I was like, oh, you would think Kikoro would be there, but to be fair, she was off trying to talk her dad off of this ledge. But sadly, Kefka's situation is more complicated because looking at his X-ray scan, he doesn't have a heart anymore. His heart has full-blown become a kaiju's core. So it's like, yeah, there's no human in him anymore. He's definitely a kaiju. And she can't really say anything about to her dad because her dad shuts her down. He's like, oh, like here you are begging for that thing's life. All you're doing is commenting on your own failures. But before she leaves, she said, Dad, like, Papa, like, I still want to believe in him. Mina is putting together her report and she gives it to their operator. Once again, I think it's like Okagani. I'm probably butchering it, but giving it to her because it's like they're compiling everything they can, all the reports, all the stuff that Kefka just straight up did as a human, as part of the division, showcasing like, right, he helped. His support's the reason why like so many people survived. He's come through time and time again. Even as a kaiju, the reports will show he's only ever fought other kaijus. He's never like killed or hurt someone. And then obviously Kefka was like locked away for a couple days. He still was holding on to the hope of like, I gotta prove I'm human. He tries to joke with the scientists that came to run tests, but they're not interacting with him because for them it's probably a thing of we can't trust this thing. It's going to pretend to be human, but it's a monster, so we got to treat it as such. They were probably also ordered not to interact with it, but they probably would have followed that through and through regardless. It's like, oh, this thing might look human, but it's not human. And then eventually Isao shows up himself to kind of make a point because he's like, yeah, go ahead and release Kefka. I was like, he's about to try and kill you because he's like, yeah, if Kaiju number 8 wanted to escape, he could escape at any time. And he goes full blown assault. Like, I mean, even beforehand, it's like he has people shoot at Kafka, then like rips out a piece of his side to kind of use as a sample. It's like, I guess they would have never been able to naturally pierce his skin beforehand because I guess maybe there was always going to be a defense mechanism. I mean, I guess it's also Isao kind of going about this the most ashholeless way possible. If you'd asked, Kefka would have easily given over samples, but I guess it's like to get like maybe he would have like subconsciously like put up defenses to block anything. I don't think, but like I said, I think Isao just went about it the most assholish way possible. And he ends up drawing out his weapons, which are giant gauntlets. We find out are made from Kaiju number 2, which this thing was from the 70s. So once again, we don't fully know the history of Kaijus in this world. But this thing went on a rampage and didn't stop until it was stopped. And so begs the question once again, who and what the hell was Kaiju number one? If that's the case, if that's number two, and these weapons were forged from it, and Isawa was the only one who's been able to properly utilize these things, and he forces Kefka, even though Kefka doesn't want to, he inadvertently transforms subconsciously to protect himself. And so it's mainly just that, let me get out of his way, as this guy is literally punching and blowing off your limbs. You have like zero choice, but it's just Kefka doesn't want to fight back because he wants to prove them, I am human, I've got to prove it. But it's like, this guy is dead set on killing me, because he'd even saying like, right, you want to prove you're human, go ahead and die in that form if you want to, Kaiju. Putting a lot of pressure on Kefka, just blow after blow, and just kind of straight up, like, it's not even just like like oh, he blew off, like he's exploding your limbs into like nothing. They are popping from the impact. And it's never been like, I'm sure it's giving him even more of a run than Hasino, because he's fighting back even less than he is against Hasino, because at least in like, well, you're not trying to hurt him, but you're also defending yourself. But also in this case, you're trying so hard to prove that you're human, but he backs you into a corner, because the Kaiju inside of Kefka is resonating with those weapons, because it's like it's registering Isao as a Daikaiju, because he's, especially with as powerful as he is, because he's considered like the strongest member of the defense force ever, which I kind of figured as much when we first learned her dad was a director. So I was right about like him being like the head of this organization. So once again, I don't know if it's a family lineage thing of his family was part of the defense force too, because I feel like they would have referenced like the Shinomiya legacy as a whole family, if and not just specifically Isawa, when they were referencing like, oh, Kikoro being as amazing as she is, like they reference like, well, she is our father's daughter, rather than just like, oh my god, she's part of the Shinomiya lineage. So, but maybe there's a little bit of both in that regard. Either way, pushed to the edge, Kafka loses control and goes berserk, and the Kaiju inside of him fully takes over. And he's kind of like morphing. I thought he was going to go, like, we haven't seen him like, well, he's morphed a little bit every time like he's released some of his powers, but he's kind of going a little berserk. I thought he was going to go more monstrous form like Kaiju number 10 did. Like, I thought that's where this was heading, but he kind of seems like he gets bigger, but he's out of control, pushes Isawa back, and obviously Kikoro is like worried. She's like, no, you're supposed to be a human, right? Like, something's wrong. And on the inside, we see that the Kaiju is taking over, and it's talking to Kefka, and it's like, kill. This is first time really interacting with this thing. There's a webtoon manhwa called Jungle Juice. Basically, like, a situation is basically led humans to fuse with insects, and the main protagonist fused with a very specific dragonfly. But yeah, people are fused with like insects. Like, another one of the main characters, she's fused with specifically like a crap ton of cockroaches. They look like human, but they have like some of the super enhanced capabilities of said like insects or whatever. The reason why I'm referencing that, it's because there's a similar thing where like the main protagonist has to deal with a similar thing that Kefka's dealing with this regard, where it's like, oh, the main protagonist of Jungle Juice meets like the butterfly, the dragonfly inside of himself, just like Kefka is with this Kaiju. Especially the way this Kaiju looks, it's kind of even more eerily similar to like the whole Jungle Juice situation. I mean, there's other things that I'm sure that you're like, oh, someone trapped inside their soul and wrestling with like the monster inside of them. Like, it's not like nothing else has done it, but it's just, that's my most recent point of reference. It's a great series. I highly recommend, if you've never read it, check it out. You can read it on Webtoon, so the Webtoon app. But yeah, I'm interested to see where all this takes us. The next episode is the season finale, so it's going to be interesting to see how this all concludes. What, well, you can only assume Kefka's going to like rein it all back in, but it's like, obviously it seems like this is probably going to end up being a test from Isawa, because he's like, if I wanted to, I could have easily killed you, but we needed to kind of test you through and through. Like, I don't know if his daughter's like comments had any effect. Like, maybe we got some of the conversation, but maybe when we like next episode they'll flashback and show that there was even more to the conversation, or maybe that's all there was. But I'm sure it's going to be a thing of, if I wanted to, I could have killed you, but I needed to put pressure on you to see, like, could you rein yourself in if pushed to the edge. And it's like, and once again, I'd commented on it last episode, I'm curious to see going forward. This will most likely get resolved, but the thing is, going forward, what does that look like? What is his restrictions? How are they going to utilize him going forward in this war against the kaijus? We'll ultimately have to wait to see how the season 1 finale plays out and what it sets up for the future. But really, that's all I want to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.